another gift to us, EJ Hradek, NHL Network. Man, how are you, sir?
I'm good. You know, it's funny you text me to come on today, which I'm always happy to join you because you're one of the very best, and we've been doing this a long time. So I appreciate it. But like last night, you know, I watched the game. I feel bad for the Canes and like fans because you got great fans there. And, like, I know that, you know, you guys are really dug in with the team. And so I said, I watched the whole Canes corner with Adam Gold.
Did you really?
Like, before I went to bed. And it was very good. You're really good, Adam. I mean, people don't understand to sit there and talk by yourself for 30 minutes is something that is a real talent and a real skill, and you do a really great job. I learned a little bit about the Pete Sampras, Andre Agassi history. I covered tennis in that era, and you know, I remember that era fairly well. You had the numbers. It was 6-3, and it was the Australian, and I mean, it was awesome. It was awesome.
Thank you.
So listen, I really enjoyed it. And I really was eager to hear what you were going to say about the game because it's easy for those of us who follow at a national level to watch a game like that and just to beat the team up, right?
Right.
But, like, you know, it's obviously more nuanced than that, and you watch them day in and day out and over many years. And so I wanted to get your take on it, but also after watching it, you do an unbelievable job. So I'm sure the fans, you know, they're fortunate to have that.
My God, I don't even know what to do now. EJ Hradek is here. He's now my agent. So I appreciate that.
Let's talk about Wimbledon, 87 Wimbledon.
We should do that. It's much better than talking about that first period. And here's the thing about what happened. I love Andre. And I don't think it was all about Andre last night. Because when you go back and you look at the scope of that first sequence that led to the Svechnikov turnover, and you know, it's funny, in real time you don't notice that Sam Bennett deflects the backhand attempt to get the puck out of the zone. So Bennett plays a role in the turnover. But there were so many things bad about it, but I also think that Andre was a little casual. Sean Walker probably shouldn't have passed him that puck in the first place because you put Andre in a bad spot. But Andre turned it over 3 times in the first period. All 2 of them ended up goals. One of them, you know, maybe the most egregious of them, Martinook saved. He blocked a Tkachuk shot, and then he takes the dumb penalty. And Andre, it's been a tough regular season for him, and last night was just a reminder of the regular season.
Yeah, I mean, I thought Roddy handled it well after the game. It's like, you know, he's trying.
Yeah.
Right? I think it was Roddy what he said. I mean, he's trying. He's, you know, he wants to win as much as anybody out there. All these guys want to win. And, like, you know, sometimes you get off script and you try to do too many things and you get, you know, Matthew Tkachuk and those guys are terrific at getting under your skin and, you know, making you a little crazy.
Yep.
And, you know, it was just a bad night. I mean, it just happens. And, you know, like, all I can say is, I mean, they went in to beat, Toronto went in there in Game 6. Nobody gave them a chance. Toronto won 2-0. And, you know, then we know what happened in Game 7.
Right.
But, like, this is a crazy game sometimes where things don't, you know, just doesn't go your way. And so, you know, when I look at it at the start of the series, we probably talked about it. I mean, I don't think it's a great matchup for Carolina. I think Florida's probably the best team in the East, maybe the best team in the league.
Yeah.
You know, they're hard to beat. They know how to – and the other thing is they know how to win now. They've won the Cup. They've been to 2 consecutive finals. They likely are going to go to a third. I mean, it's just not easy to beat them. So we'll see what happens in Game 3. Carolina's a little dinged up. But I just think, generally speaking, you know, some teams are just better than you.
Right.
And I think Florida's just better than them.
And I agree with that. And I think the issue is that Florida and Carolina play, maybe not identically, but they play similar ways. And Florida plays that way with bigger, meaner, and in many ways better players. I did this little exercise. We can go through this real quick. If I put all EJ Hradek from NHL Network, my best friend is now joining us here on the Adam Gold Show. If you put all of the available forwards for the two teams on the table, wrote all their names on an individual card, and we had a draft, how many players would we pick from Florida before we got to, let's just say, Sebastian Aho? Right? We would go Barkov, we would go Kachuk, maybe we would go Reinhart, and I think Aho and Bennett might be a decision. And I'm not sure we'd get to
Aho and Bennett would be probably, are we playing for the Stanley Cup or are we playing for an 82-game season?
Right.
Right?
That's the other thing, right.
So you're right. I mean, like this is the thing. I mean, it's one of the reasons why I've long hated this man-to-man defense in the D zone that a lot of teams do now. One of the reasons I hate it is because if my guys are better than your guys, right, and we're one-on-one, and my guy beats your guy one-on-one, now it's 5-on-4 to the net.
Right.
And so that's just one of those things to me that I would prefer. Like some teams run like a little bit of a hybrid. I'm kind of a zone guy. I'm like, let's not make it hard, Let's not make it hard. And if teams try to overwhelm you and outnumber you in different areas, then you make adjustments. But so they've got a really good team. I mean, think about it. They're third. Everybody's made a big deal about Marchand's playing really well and, on that team. Yeah, because he's on the third line, basically, with Lundell, who was a very high draft pick, who on a lot of teams in this league might be a number one center just because of, he was I think a 15th overall pick. It might have been earlier than that. And then Luosterainen, who, you guys are familiar with, and he's a good player. Like Brad Marchand is not dealing with top. It's not like when he was in Boston playing with Bergeron and facing like the top checkers on everybody's team. He's able to kind of run wild a little bit now. He's facing a much different matchup. So this is a deep, deep team. They're big and strong on the blue line. The goalie is, been there. Even last night, I mean, you had a good chance, I think, shorthanded.
Yep.
And Bobrovsky kicked it out, and the puck goes the other way, and they end up scoring. Yep. So, they're just, and Paul Maurice has coached, 10 million games in the NHL, and they got a good staff there. I mean, they're just right now, they're the standard as the Stanley Cup champion, and they look better this year than they were last year.
I agree. The way Seth Jones has come in and Marchand has elevated that third line to as good as a lot of teams' top lines. Would you agree that Paul Maurice is headed for the Hall of Fame?
Well, you know what? Coaches probably are underrepresented in the Hall of Fame, but, to go to a third straight final, I don't know very many guys who have gone to 3 straight finals. Yeah, 4th overall because we're familiar. Yeah, that's right. You guys had him in Carolina for years. He went to a final in 2002, and he was the coach when they went to the conference final in 2009. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yeah. So I mean, listen. I always say this, Adam. Players you get on the right bus, you're a good coach. If you would switch Roddy Brind'amour and Paul Maurice right now, and Paul's not to say that he hasn't done a wonderful job with Florida. I think Roddy would be just fine. Yeah, coaching the Florida Panthers.
Agreed.
But Paul has had years of experience, and he's been is there a situation behind the bench that Paul Maurice hasn't dealt with?
No, zero.
And I think the other thing too is that it reminded me a little bit of when Joe Torre showed up with the Yankees. It was just the right fit. At the time, everybody was like, Joe Torre, why are they hiring Joe Torre? And it ended up being a great fit. And Paul Maurice, he left Winnipeg, and he had been there a while, and he had coached in Carolina twice, and Toronto, and other places, and he had never won. And it's is that the guy? But it was the perfect fit at the perfect time. And he is. I just think in my little bit of time around him over the last couple of years, he just looks like a guy that is so comfortable in his own skin right now. Yeah. And he's got great great players to work with. I just think it's been a great fit for him. So I'm really happy for him because he is one of those guys. He's a hockey guy through and through, and he's great. Obviously, he's been really helpful with those of us in the media with just being open, and he's funny.
He is funny.
Of course, it's easy to be funny. It's easy to be funny when you're winning. So
true. Mo's got one of the greatest, driest senses of humor you'll ever find. So
that's right. And you were around him, like 20 years ago. So like that he's probably the same guy in a lot of ways.
No, he is. I have nothing but good memories of covering Paul Maurice. I didn't spend a lot of time with him outside. I did actually bump into him at the U.S. Open in 2005 at Pinehurst. Okay. He and Jim Rutherford were walking around, and they've always been close. Maurice had already left Carolina because it was the summer that Peter Laviolette had already taken over. But I ran into Rutherford and Mo at a U.S. Open and spent, about 20 minutes with them. And Paul was super fun to be around. They were just having a good time. And then I let them go do their thing. But real quick about the game tomorrow. Now, Carolina can make all sorts of lineup changes. I just don't know that there's, other than getting a bounce or playing a game that really emphasizes we're making no mistakes today, because they gave Florida the momentum in game one with some mistakes, and because Carolina was controlling the game until the Aho retaliation penalty, and then game two they were, even though that was a bad call, doesn't matter, don't retaliate. Then in game two, the turnover that leads to the first goal. Unless if Carolina can play what amounts to a perfect game and maybe get the first goal, I just don't know how they attack Florida and be so careful that you don't really play your game, which is high intensity.
Yeah, I think it really just has to come down to shift hockey, like not really thinking much beyond the shift in front of you as a player. I think, it's interesting with Florida, they just pressure you so much. And, another thing, Adam, is they are really confident playing the Carolina Hurricanes.
Yes.
You can see that in the way they play them. It just oozes that they're just really confident about the way that they match up. But I just think that you've got to try to just play shift-to-shift hockey. I like trying to stretch Florida out a little bit, because when they try to close that ice down, like that first goal, like I think Svechnikov was kind of on the boards there, standing still, waiting for that play. I just don't think that's the way you can play Florida. They're just on their toes, over the puck. They're pressuring you. I just think you got to force those D off the blue line, get those forwards, moving high, make those defensemen make decisions, create some space on the ice, flip the puck out, flip it up in the air, create foot. I think that's the way you have to play the Florida Panthers, because when you got guys, when your wingers are on the wall like that, stationary, the D is coming down hard. They eat up time and space in those situations. They create chaos. They create loose pucks. They create opportunities. They have really good players that could finish. And so for me, it would really just be, hey, shift-to-shift hockey. Let's get those wingers up high. Let's make those defensemen make decisions for Florida. And we get the puck to center. Let's get it in. That's kind of what Carolina does anyway.
Yeah.
Look for those long tip plays to create the puck. And then you got to try to get guys on their D. That's the other thing, is like Florida's been able to get out of the zone relatively easy in these games. And, that's another part of the problem. Like Carolina scores when they get, pressure on the forecheck, and they get the puck going low to high and across and a one-timer at the net. And, that's how, when they're playing well, that's what it looks like to me. So, it's a challenge. Florida really feels good and comfortable in this matchup. I would say really for the Carolina Hurricanes has got to dig deep and just try to worry about one shift at a time. And, getting the lead would be great, and because then you could dictate the pace a little bit. But I would definitely try to stretch them out if I could, because you got too many guys in that defensive zone. It's a scramble in there, and they drive you nuts.
It's crowded. And Rod said last night, he said, well, we just got to win a period. We haven't, forget about a game. Just got to win a period.
Win the first shift and then try to win the next one after that and create momentum. That's all you can say when you're down, 2-0 and you've had some tough outcomes so far. I mean, again, you could point to the Leafs. I mean, the Leafs looked terrible in Game 5. It looked like it was over. They had blown their opportunity, and then they went into Florida and played a really good game. And, the Florida Panthers are great. They've won a cup. They're not quite the 1978 Canadians yet. So, go in there and, just win that first shift, go from there, be over your skates, try to play, whatever your plan is going to be, play to your plan. Hopefully your goaltender makes some stops for you.
Yeah.
And, that's all you could ask for. And it's been tough. I'm not going to blame Freddie Anderson. It's been kind of tough on him. He's had some deflections, and that's what happens in chaos around the front of the net. But I do think, Adam, to the point of our conversations over many years, it would be nicer if they had somebody that, is just more reliable in the postseason than Freddie, just because, we've seen the movie over and over and over. He's had injury, he comes back, he plays well, but then he gets into these spots and I think you said it last night. I mean, you'd like to get that first save. Yeah. I know it was deflected, but you'd like to get a piece of that one and not be behind the 8 ball 90 seconds into the game.
Yeah, I thought, he might have done better with Verhaeghe's first goal in Game 1 too. That's it's another case where no bad goals, but you might have want to get a piece of that one, right? That's the way I looked at it.
Freddie's not the guy that's going to help you beat a superior opponent, and that's probably what you need against this team.
Yeah, he's not Jake Ottinger. Although Edmonton doesn't have that either in Stuart Skinner. Yeah. But they do have that McDavid and Draisaitl guy. They probably need to stay out of the penalty box. I'm just going to say that. I think they probably don't let Dallas have 3 straight power plays to start the third period. E.J. Hradek, my friend, I appreciate your time. I will be in touch. You know that.
All right. And listen, I'm always here for you, and I'll be looking forward to Kane's Corner after Game 3.
Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate that.
All right, my friend.
What a ringing endorsement. I'm so excited.